Good evening. So in this video, we're going to be doing a brief rundown on the UN Development Goal number 2, zero hunger, and the state of the development of that goal in China. So the data we're looking at here, this graph is the share of people by region of the world who are considered undernourished or malnourished. This is the population of people across the world whose daily food intake does not meet their needs for a normal, active, and healthy life. And China is right here, this purple line. And you can see, as well as the United States that I brought up for comparison here, that the data flattens out here at 2.5%. That's just because below 2.5%, they report everything on this graph at 2.5% because of the statistical uncertainty that occurs with those low numbers. So China and the US have been both bottomed out at that 2.5% mark since about 2010. And you can see that before then, from 2000 to 2010, that hunger was decreasing at a pretty consistent rate, which leads us to believe that likely it's a good bit below that 2.5% mark as it was on that trajectory. And compared to the world average, which is up here, China's doing great. In 2023, these averages were sitting at 9.1% for the world and at 2.5% for China. So the trajectories there, you see the right pattern, and we see continued success. One short caveat I'll add to this and the other graphs we look at for China, there's sometimes some skepticism and some uncertainty about the data that comes out of China regarding general population health and well-being statistics because they view that in some cases as a strategic national security issue. They're not always forthcoming with that kind of information. So there is some skepticism, but especially as it pertains to this hunger issue, the the data is pretty evident to third-party observers as well, and we can see from this trajectory that there's certainly been patterns in place to drive this real progress. Now let's take a look at another marker of hunger, which is death rate from malnutrition. We have China in blue here, and the United States for comparison in purple. And we have some other countries to benchmark this against up here. This is the world average in red, and as of 2021, the world average was 2.6% death rate out of 100,000 people for malnutrition. Not 2.6%, excuse me, 2.6 deaths per 100,000 people, and zero point 0.9 in China, 1.9 in the US. And I myself was surprised to see that China is actually leading the United States in this regard. They have a consistent decrease that we can observe going back from the 80s all the way up through modern day, and they've maintained that pattern. The United States, while we have a history of being good on this issue, 0.5% for years and years and years, zero point 0.8, zero point 0.7, 0.5% back here, actually around the mid 2010s, we see a rise in the United States in this issue, a pretty sharp rise compared to our track record here, and whether that's related to disease, public health issues, misinformation around health issues, access to food, access to healthy food, food security. There's all kinds of factors going on, but it is concerning to observe that pattern. And that pattern is not quite mirrored, but not quite reflected here exactly. But you can see the same thing going on where we have in child malnutrition or child stunted growth, which is often an indicator of malnutrition, that the United States has historically good data, but we're starting to creep up, and China's been on that consistent downhill trajectory since the 2000s. And we're just about neck and neck in this issue today, or as of 2024, where we see China at 4.5% and the United States at 4.2. So let's take a look at some GIS solutions to the hunger issue. The four pillars of information technology solutions to this SDG are going to be monitoring and evaluation, empowering smallholder farms, enhancing food production, and improving food distribution and access. So this is about sort of looking at things from the top end and getting a big picture understanding of this global issue by monitoring and evaluation, empowering smallholder farms. Small scale and localized agriculture is maybe the number one thing we can do to move in the right direction for all kinds of reasons. It's economically, environmentally, and socially more sustainable, and also more culturally cohesive to focus on these smallholder farms and this local agriculture, growing crops that are native to the region that they're grown in, feeding people in an area with food grown in that area. That's going to be a super big step in the right direction here. And coming over here to food distribution and access and food production, these two are about attacking the supply chain, cutting out any and all inefficiency, because when you're operating with a goal as important as providing food to people, you have to do it well, you have to do it productively, efficiently, and not leave anything on the table. And tools like Internet of Things and AI and other information systems can really help with that, especially in the supply chain area. So thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. And I will be back soon to talk about another sustainable development goal.